Have you ever been on a dive boat in a bit of swell, a little bit of chop out in the ocean, and you couldn't face your scuba partner for a proper buddy check? Or maybe you're a single diver, you find yourself on a dive boat with buddies who you don't know, and you want to double check your own gear and make sure that you're safety checked. Well, in this video, I'm going to guide you through my system of a buddy check with a logical and easy to remember sequence, and I'll have a special bonus tip for you at the end with one final important check. This will allow you to do a self-reliant buddy check. Hi folks, I'm Ron, and some say with over 35 years of active teaching and approximately 2,000 certified dive students, I'm one of those old men of the sea. The ocean is my love and diving is definitely my passion. My goal with my videos is to share with you some of my knowledge and guidance for scuba and freediving, maybe helping to make diving for you and your buddies safer and even more enjoyable. Now this video and videos like it on my channel are not intended to replace a validated scuba or freediving course. Please get proper training before you engage in these activities. So many of you may be familiar with the buddy check, BWRAF, which is an acronym of course for BCD, your weight system, your releases, make sure your air is on and a final okay. Well, this gear check that I'm about to show you builds on that. For this scenario, the diver will be on a boat seated with his or her tank attached to the boat or tank rack so that it doesn't fall. But as you'll see as I go through this self-reliant buddy check and setup, you can do this whether you're standing up and your buddy is helping you, or if you're on your own at a shore dive site like I am here. Usually with the excitement of the dive and or the sea conditions, this is where the diver can easily become stressed and make a mistake. And just like a pilot, perhaps, we want to have a system and checks that make sure that we're going to have air and the equipment is where we need it to be when we're out under the water on our dive. So you're on the boat, the tank is strapped into the tank rack. And of course, if you're doing a shore dive, you can compare it here because we are at the shore. So the tank would be strapped in. I would usually have my mask on a clip. I have lots of clips. I take it off and I'm going to wash it off properly in the rinse bucket before I put on all my gear. That way I don't have to lean over and bend over with this tank on my back, especially with the waves and the ocean rolling and rocking on the boat and maybe trying to throw you over. So wash your mask off first, properly get all the soap out so you don't have to lean forward and wash it again. So after I've done my mask, and I usually have my mask and I clip it back on my right side. I use my right side because my regulator comes over my right shoulder, my alternate is on the clip on the right side. That means once I move the mask, I have nothing impeding the use of the alternate air source in case somebody needs it. Now if I do use a weight belt, I use a weight belt as you know, and for the weight belt what I do is I make sure I put it on snug. I try to balance the weights to either side so that it's equally distributed, so I'm not diving with a lopsided sort of dive, buoyancy off and the fish wondering who is his dive instructor. So you want to balance yourself so you're kind of horizontal and your trim is adjusted. Now I've seen divers on the surface, they've had their weight belt slip, fall off, perhaps sometimes when they are in the water, as the suit compresses. Remember, this is a neoprene rubber cell, and as it compresses, if the belt is not snug, it can actually slip and slip off. I think we were at Gardner Sunk in Tobago, and one of the divers' belts fell to the bottom of the sea. I could see him floating away and he signaled, come grab me, help me, help me. I couldn't, because if I go up there that quickly, I'm going to get the bends. So it was like, bye bye, see you in a little while. So I went down, picked up the weights and went up to the surface and gave it to him slowly. So get your weights on, make sure it's snug, make sure that belt is snug on. Now if you are using the integrated weight system, I like to put it on now, before I disconnect the tank from the tank rack or before I put it onto myself, because when you've got it on, trying to get the weight pockets in at that point sometimes is a little bit tricky and to get that clicked in. So let me show you how I do this now. Okay, so folks, if you are using the integrated weight systems, of course at this point make sure you've got your weights in there, the correct amount of weight that you need. Lock it in there with the Velcro and then insert it into here. Make sure you hear that click. That was a click, a positive lock, and it's locked in there. Now, I have a couple other videos and I'll put them in the description links below this video. You can look at the weight systems as well as the BCD setup there. So folks, at this stage, if you're on a boat and you're doing a boat dive, chances are this tank is still securely fastened via this bungee cord to the tank rack. Before I've done anything else, what I do is I wash my mask off, I make sure I put my weights into the system or my weight belt on, and now I'm ready to release this bungee cord and take control of my tank, not letting it go, of course. At this stage, I make sure my air is fully turned on, all the way open, not partially and then left open, all the way and back just a touch. I described that in one of the previous videos and I'll link to it in the description below again. You don't want it partially open, and then towards the end of the dive, when you think you have enough air, it feels a little difficult to breathe from the regulator because the air isn't properly turned on. I'll take a look at that again in a minute. Now, once you turn on your air, make sure you double check to see how much of it you do have. Don't just turn it on and not check. Double check to see what you have. So that's what I've done there. So that's this. I'm continuing to hold it, and next I go to the other parts of the setup system. At this stage, I want to deal with my hoses. So I'm facing my tank. It's either on the seat if I'm on a boat, and again I'm holding it, or if I'm doing a shore dive, maybe my buddy has got it, or maybe it's on the concrete and I'm just addressing it. So if you look at the hoses, you can see they're sort of entangled and intertwined in each other. What you want to do is untangle it so that each one has its own free position. So you see what I did? I untangle it, and I'll show you why. So this side too, this may be tangled. I'll take this out from there. This one is free over your shoulder now, and this one is going to be free here. So notice how all hoses are now completely free. I'll show you why in a few minutes. I'll tang them up, and then I'll show you what it looks like when it's tangled up. Now I can either sit into the shoulder straps, or I can get our buddy to lift and hold the tank while I get into the front of the BCD here and start buckling it up and take the weight of the tank. So keep your hand on it if you're on the boat. If not, if your buddy's helping you, you want to get in here as quickly as you can. So folks, after you've made sure your mask is washed out, you've turned on your air, you've double checked to see how much air you've got, and then you make sure that you release the bungee cord from the tank if you're on the boat. If you're here on the concrete jetty part at the shore dive, then you simply have your buddy hold it, or you sit into it now. So I've left it at roughly the height. Now the first thing I want to do, especially if I'm on a boat, is to make this center bit snug, and that way if even the boat's rocking and rolling, that's not going anywhere. I open my shoulder straps so that it's basically just coming over the top, and it's easy for me to just reach over, find my clips. One, this one here, this one here, do up my clips, and that's done. Now we come to the other part of it. Ideally we want to tuck all our hoses in so they're not hanging loose and be very streamlined. Why? We were diving on one of the islands once, and one of the divers left their high pressure hose hanging. They didn't do anything with it. They didn't attach it to a clip, and they didn't stick it into the center buckle here. And what happened is the boat was a smaller boat, and the gunnel had the T-top attached to the gunnel. So the diver sat on the gunnel, and as the diver rolled, this hooked up on the metal part. Guess who ended up hanging upside down at the side of the boat? Yep, he did. So be very careful. That could be painful, and of course in a bad situation you can damage and rupture a high pressure or even your low pressure hose if you left your alternate hanging at the side, for instance. So make sure everything is tucked in, and I'll show you what I do and how I do mine. I wanted to demo the other method of getting to your gear, and that is with the straps already buckled up, give it a little bit of the length of the strap so that it's easier to get into it. Same thing on this side, and then you'd buckle it up. So with it like that, I'd simply get both arms into the straps at a time, bring it on like this, and of course catch the center and do up that at that time. Some people say this would be easier, some people the other one. So it just depends on which one works for you. Okay, so after I've done that, you want to tighten up your straps if you've released them to make them looser, make them snug. So do up both sides, make it even, and it's nice and snug. Now we want to check our hoses. So for me, what I do is I start on my left side. And this is where you're going to have your own system, and it's whatever works for you, that's the system you're going to use. But I'm stressing, have a system. So for me, folks, what I do is I start on my left side. For my system, I start with my top left hose. So sometimes this is over here and the divers are reaching and they can't find it. Start at the top, find your top left side hose, follow it down, and that's your low pressure inflator. It's right here. What you want to do at this time is just double check to make sure it works. Yes, so that is connected. On one of the other videos I did, and I'll link it in the bottom description, you can see about the problem where divers don't connect this properly. Now, sometimes what happens is if these hoses, if your gauge hose is tangled up in here, when you want to lift this, this is keeping you back when it's clipped in. So you can't release the air properly. So just make sure, like this one here is tangled, so make sure you untangle it. So that's another double check. Now the second hose is the lower hose, and that's my gauge. So what I do is I take it and I tuck it in, and I could put it on the clip here if I want. And guess what? It's now always visible to me here. Or I can clip it onto a clip that I've got for it here. So guess what? It's always right here. So that is my left side. So now as I transition over to my right side, remember to do up your sternum strap and then come over to your right side. Now for your right side, you've got two hoses again. Which hose do you deal with first? I deal with the top hose. Just like this side, the top hose, this side is the top hose. Now if you've got your reg here, your primary here, and these are tangled up, if a buddy comes to share air and this is in your mouth, and then they're pulling on this, they could be pulling your regulator primary out of your mouth. So if you're going to share air, you ideally want these untangled and this free to share. Now, similar to the high pressure hose and hanging the diver up on the side, you don't want it hanging free, damaging the reef, damaging the brain corals. When you want it, you want to find it quickly. And so what I do is I use a simple clip here at the side, and it's under the arm. So the top hose is over the arm, and that's my primary. The alternate air source is under the arm, and I clip this on right here by the notch. So it's not free and hanging all over, and I face down so it doesn't free flow as I hit the water. Now make sure I don't put it here, because this is just as bad. You want to hook it up right up to the notch, and as you hook it up to the notch, guess what? It's staying right there. And as I mentioned earlier, when I put my mask on to dive, I've got nothing impeding or obstructing the use of this alternate. If you've ever been in a situation where you've had to share air with a buddy who comes to you in a panic, and that's how they will come, you want to be able to just slide your hand down, release this quickly, and pass it to them, keeping your fingers free from the twitch button. So that's how I suggest, and that's how I do mine. I have had a situation long ago when a diver came to me and they wanted air and they needed it really urgently. They didn't wait for me to share my alternate, they grabbed at my primary. So you want to be able to release this quickly, because then this becomes your primary and they can have your primary. So you become, your primary is now your alternate air source. But it's easy to reach and easy to release as well, and that's really important. So folks, I promised you a bonus tip or two at the end of the video, and here they are. First of all, I do have 3 tips. 1, as far as my fins go, if I'm doing a shore dive, I do like to have these heavy clips. I like lots of clips because you got lots of dive gear, and it's always good to clip it somewhere. I can clip this on here, I can clip this one on over here, and then guess what? I'm free now to have my hands free as I walk down to enter the water and hold my big camera gear, or my camera gear is somewhere up there, so you see what it looks like. Or if I'm doing a boat dive, I won't clip it on obviously, I'll just put them on and be ready to hop into the water. So folks, my second bonus tip is have clips, lots of clips. Clips for your cameras, clips for your fins, clips for your mask, because Lord knows we lose enough of this stuff. We've got lots of dive gear. I know there's a mask somewhere out at Shakashikari Island. She's gonna smile when she hears that one. I'm probably gonna be in trouble. Or if you were in an island like Bonaire, underwater with me, with a guy, not the lady in red, but the guy in red. I ain't calling his name, but he had everybody looking for his underwater camera at the bottom of the sea while it floated away. So clips are important, and I take this and just clip it on. Oops, I'll clip it on. Yeah, here. And that way I've got my camera always attached to me. Ooh, it's not going anywhere, especially not up there. Right, Bill? So that is my second tip. My third tip is a really important one. So if you breathe on your reg quickly, see it's reading what it is. It's not quite full, but it's reading. It's back on now. So if you breathe quickly, and that needle is moving, it means your air is not fully turned on. Yes. Now y'all know why the wife sends him diving and doesn't come, right? If you did see any value in this video, please be sure to give it a thumbs up. It really makes a huge difference to me in getting out here to produce more videos like this for you. I do release my videos once a week and the content is pretty much like this, so feel free to subscribe if you would. Also, if you have any questions or comments on this video or would like me to cover a particular topic, drop me a line in the comments below and I'm happy to do so. This video is dedicated to my Octopush crew. A year ago, they did their open water training dive with me to around this date in Tobago. So that's one side. Make sure it clicks in. Come over to the other side and bring this one over here and lock it in. Now, my point earlier was that you've got a lot of stuff here, and so if you're tangled up, you've got a bit of a problem. So that's this one here, and I've got the strap somewhere here.